Hey all, Flame here. And so, Sonic Boom, Rise of Lyric. Yeah, this game is an absolute colossal piece of shit. I'm gonna say this footage in the background here before we get started, it's just random footage I've captured on my first playthrough. And that's because I wasn't planning on addressing Sonic Boom properly on the channel until we get to doing a proper playthrough, probably in a few months' time, like we did with Lost World after that came out. But this game I think is a special case, and I was just playing through it and I thought, you know what, sod it, I've got to address this properly because this is abysmal. Like, I've played bad Sonic games before quite a bit, but this is just absolutely terrible for a new game, and this video is going to go into why that is. The problem here is I kind of don't know where to start because there's so much wrong with Rise of Lyric. But the biggest one to me that's standing out as I'm playing more and more levels into the game is this game is just flat out boring. Sonic games in the past, the good Sonic games at least, you associate them with speed. You want like fast moving platforming. And when you got a Sonic game that doesn't have fast moving platforming, it's just not exciting like a Sonic game should be. A lot of the gameplay in Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric, it is literally just, you've got very, very basic slow platforming, and by that I mean stomp on this switch, just kick this thing out of the way, maybe climb a wall as Knuckles, just very platforming by numbers sort of thing, nothing interesting, and it really doesn't flow well with the terrain. And the other part of the gameplay are just sections where you're beating up robots endlessly, and that isn't exciting at all. Like, this is even less interesting combat than the Werehog, which I've criticised in the past. Because the Werehog, like, it doesn't feel in place in Sonic, but at least like there's combos, there's different things to make it more interesting as you play more of it. Whereas in Rise of Lyric, it's just the same thing over and over, and it feels like it's padding in a game where the levels are already long enough. I was playing a couple of days ago. I was playing this level where you're in. It's like the characters have gone back to the past, and it's a base kind of place that you're looking for Lyric for Snake in. And that level took me probably about 50 minutes. Yeah, a Sonic level took me about 50 minutes, which is flat out absolutely fucking unacceptable, to be quite frank. It's just the same platforming by numbers and fighting enemies over and over without a change of terrain. It's just tedium. And I've heard a few people saying that maybe you should just go into this game with an open mind. It's not a conventional Sonic game. The fact that it's out of place in the Sonic series, that's one problem. Granted, not a huge problem in the grand scheme of things, but this isn't even a good game in general. Like, this isn't a good Jack game, this isn't a good Ratchet game, this is literally just a boring game. Like, you could switch out these characters with new characters, it'd still feel repetitive, tedious, boring. And the other defence I've heard is that I'm looking for the wrong thing because this game's marketed towards children. And I have no idea what makes people think that's an acceptable defence, to be honest, because firstly, every Sonic game has been marketed primarily towards children. I think the classic games on the Mega Drive, you got the adventure games marketed towards children, like games like Colours, Generations, the Sonic 4 games, they've all been marketed towards children as well, but they had fulfilling content, they were fun to play, regardless of who you are. And also, if you're marketing towards children, children have much shorter attention spans than adults do. So they're less likely to put up with this kind of repetitive fighting, boring platforming. They're more likely to get bored after 5 minutes. So that is, if you're marketing to this kind of games to children, that makes the whole problem worse. And on top of that, I think saying that these problems aren't problems because it's a children's game, that's actually quite patronising towards children. I wouldn't have wanted to play a shit game when I was like 6-7 years old, so why would younger kids now? I think the next thing we need to address are the technical problems with Rise of Lyric. Because over the course of this video already, you'll already have seen a glitch I ran into just like without trying to prompt anything, just playing the game as I think it should be played. Where I kind of fell through the floor into the abyss and then respawned and then something else happened. Like, that's really sloppy programming. I know people always give this defence of all games have glitches, which, like, yeah, you're never going to get a perfectly unbreakable game. Like, someone will find a way to break every game. But most games that are well made, you very rarely run into that kind of thing during normal gameplay. Whereas with Rise of Lyric, I already have, as you saw. Like, I wasn't doing anything out of the ordinary to prompt that to happen, but it happened. And that in itself is just one example of overall very sloppy technical programming. The camera in this game is really hit and miss. Sometimes it won't be too bad, other times you'll run into like really awkward camera angles. You'll be trying to hit a guy and things will be attacking you from off screen that you have no way to do anything about. There's also a couple of sections where it goes into an over the head, like top down camera angle, which when you're trying to platform is really frustrating. There's one section where you're on a boat kind of device and you're trying to dodge things and shoot things, and there's things coming from everywhere and you're being shot at from these turret kind of things from off screen, and that is unnecessarily difficult. And the other really noticeable technical problem is the frame rate, because despite being 2014, this game somehow manages to struggle to keep a consistent 30 frames per second. There'll be a lot of times when things are happening on screen and there's really noticeable slowdown, which is inexcusable. It was inexcusable when it happened back in 2006 in Sonic 06. It's completely unforgivable now. And that's not exclusively the gameplay either. Sometimes when a cutscene is literally just loaded up, the first like 2-3 seconds of it, there's like little jumps, little skips, where the game's obviously not loaded the cutscene clip in properly. And that is just really disorientating. Like, it's not the kind of thing that ruins a game, but it's really sloppy. In terms of other things, nothing really stands out as amazing in this game. Like, the boss battles, they're nothing really that memorable. Like the one you're seeing around about now on screen, I didn't know what the hell I was meant to be doing for the first probably couple of minutes, until one of the characters just started yapping about how you gotta throw the thing, like the enemies, into the boss's mouth, or whatever that's meant to be. And that, it's quite hard to aim things you're throwing, so that boss ended up being a lot of frustration and me getting killed by things that I couldn't really see coming because there's too much on the screen. So that's not fun. Other presentation things, the graphics look absolutely hideous really. Like, this looks like a PS2 game run through an upscaler. These are really low quality textures that they've made that look like they've rushed out in a few minutes, which is a huge shame. And the sound direction, the characters don't shut up. There'll be times when you're like just walking through a stage and you'll have characters in succession pointing out every bounce pad or like boost pad or whatever. And there's one line in the level that I mentioned earlier, the 50-minute one, that really pissed me off, where I think it's Sonic goes a ramp and then Tails goes, I wonder if we can use this as a ramp. I'm not making that shit up, that literally happened. The lines one after the other as though they were conversing. That's obnoxious as all hell and just stupid. These other sound, like the music's just forgettable. I can't remember a single track of this. I remember during Lost World I mentioned the music wasn't all that, but at least there were a couple of songs I like Boss Theme, Windy Hill and stuff like, and Wonderworld. They were good songs, but I can't actually remember any of this. It's just like ambient music, which in a game about a guy who supposedly goes really fast is stupidly out of place, but you know, can't put effort into this kind of thing, can we? don't worry, eventually we will cover this in a lot more detail in a proper playthrough. And this is the first time this has got to a case where I think I just need to address this stuff right now. Because like the footage you're watching, it's from my first playthrough. I normally like just play the games myself off screen and then do the second run as the recorded run. Like this game, I was just halfway through a level and I thought, you know what? Sod this, I need to rant, because this game is horrible. I think that should cover us at least for today until we do a proper commentary of it. But what I can leave saying, don't buy Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric. I know a lot of people will buy it just because it's Sonic and they want to experience it for themselves. If that's the case, just rent it. Big Red Button, Sega, they don't deserve your money for this, to be quite honest. And that's all I can really say as a bottom line. So, until next time, I'll see you later on, folks.